Hello everyone. How are you doing? Happy Memorial Day weekend, and today is actually Memorial Day in the US. So I definitely want to send a special thank you and acknowledgement to all of those who have served this country, who have fought, who have protected, who have risked their lives to protect our being here in the U.S. So definitely want to say Happy Memorial Day to all those who serve. To all those who served in the past, definitely for, the lives that were lost to guarantee our freedom. Okay, that's a lot. And today, this morning I've been planning to do this live for the past really 3-4 days, to be honest with you. I said, you know what, I need to do this. It's a topic that I only recently, and by recently I mean honestly within the last year or two, I've started addressing it more, talking about it, sharing this topic with other people, because it is such a deep, personal, intimate conversation, and I honestly believe that the conversation needs to be had more than what it is. It needs to be put on Front Street because it's something that's so common amongst all people, honestly, regardless of your race, regardless of your income level, your education. Like it's about life, okay? And this morning I was hit with the news that someone that I work with, passed, and it just hit me because this is someone that is young, married, children, just great attitude, always smiling whenever I saw him, and I think we take for granted that people are always going to be there, right? The people that we work with or our family members, like we know, okay, let's just, being sensible and logical. Everyone knows that, death is going to happen. You know what I mean? Like it's definitely a given. We live and then we pass on. But it's expected, I think, that, that we live a long life, that, when you go, you're in your 80s, your 90s, you've lived a full life, you've had children or not, grandchildren or not, but, you've done things, you know what I mean? You've worked, or you've had a business, you've loved, You've experienced so many things. Like, it's our hope, I believe, that everyone does what they, lives their life to its fullest and then dies peacefully in their sleep. Like, that's the ultimate. I think for me, that's what I always think, like that's how you want, people to go, right? So it hits hard when someone goes unexpectedly. And life is just so precious. And there's so many things that we deal with in this life, right? And some people find it very hard to cope with some of the things that they are dealing with. But the truth is that, we have to, in order to live, in order to grow, in order to be, do, and have everything that you want, like, you're gonna have to deal with some stuff. You're gonna deal with some trauma. You're gonna deal with some some BS. You're going to deal with some, emotional roller coasters, right? So one of the things that, I can definitely say something that's been a huge, part of my life and within my family is, toxic family dynamics. And particularly I want to talk about the toxic mother-daughter relationship. So, I have had a very toxic relationship with my own birth mother pretty much my entire life. Like, I remember as a child having just not feeling always very loved by her, like almost feeling like she didn't really like me or she didn't love me that much. Like sometimes she would show her love and I would feel so loved by her. And then other times, honestly, I would feel like she wished I wasn't hers. And that's something that I felt like from a very young age. And, as an adolescent and well into my adult years, okay? So that was very embarrassing for me to ever admit that to anyone. That was something I never really wanted to acknowledge for myself. That was something I never wanted to admit. My girlfriends didn't know I felt that way. People that I was in a relationship with, they didn't know. I think, one person that I dated, my ex-fiance, those of you who know me know who that is. He was the only person that I ever truly told everything. And, because he got to witness firsthand some of the things, 'cause, very close to our family. So he got to witness some of the things. And so I truly opened up to him. And he was probably the first person that I opened up to and told everything from like childhood, of how I felt. And, and it's not easy. It's not easy to deal with that as children. You want to believe that your parents, love you beyond a shadow of a doubt. It's unconditional. They would never do anything intentionally to hurt you. And you can always count on them. You can always depend on them. They always have your back. You can always turn to them. That's the type of relationship I feel like I have built with my son. I hope and pray that he feels that way because, I try to instill that in him and encourage him and let him know, have discussions with him. But that was not the case with my mother. So, and it's unfortunate because I'm one of 5 children that my mother has. And quite honestly, there's 2 of us that she really does not have a very good relationship with. And throughout most of our life, she has shown that she doesn't always care for us. And that's hard to swallow. Like, that's hard to even say. And quite honestly, the fact that I'm saying this right now out loud, and not breaking down crying is a testament to me of how much I've grown, because that used to like shake me to my core. And it's like, I just couldn't believe I would be saying that. And, I read an article the other day and I had to share it with some of my girlfriends, because I think if you don't have that type of family dynamic, or have you never seen it firsthand, it's very hard to understand. Some of my girlfriends are just like, I don't get it, because you and your mom and blah blah blah, and the way that she is, and and oh, she's so nice, and this and this and that, and she's saying, yeah. But we all know that sometimes what you see out in the public and what's going on behind closed doors are two totally different things, right? People could be getting their ass whooped by their spouse behind closed doors, but out in the public eye, he or she seems like, the perfect mate, the perfect partner. Like, oh my gosh, they love them so much, and oh, what a wonderful relationship that is. So you just never know. So I read this article the other day, and it was I subscribed to this magazine called it's xonecole. Okay, xonecole, right? It's a newsletter, and I subscribe to it. They always have like really great articles and tips and information. And a young lady wrote an article entitled "An Unspoken Wound: How I'm Healing the Trauma of Not Having a Relationship with My Mother." Her name is Camille Ali. Okay. So if you get a chance, look that up. But definitely, I read the article and I was like, oh my gosh, this is exactly how I have felt. This is exactly what I dealt with. And for me, I think once I started opening up and talking to, other people and telling some of my girlfriends what I was going through, it was like a huge burden lifted off my chest, just to not keep that inside, right? Because when you keep certain things locked in, it can cause stress, it can cause physical disease, within your body. Like, that's not good to keep that locked in. Like, you have to let things out. But I was amazed at the fact that some of the people that I knew, honestly, had the same sort of family dynamic with their own mother, had the same toxic relationship, had the same dysfunction, or some of them knew people, had people close to them who expressed that they had toxic relationships with their own mother. And it was just eye-opening to me because, when you're going through something, you feel like you are the only one. You feel like, no one else can understand or relate to what it is that you are going through. They couldn't possibly, you know what I mean? Like, I used to always think like my friends would never understand because, their mother is great. They have these, their mother is so loving, you know what I mean? They could never relate. And I think even, that's how I felt like, even when I did express it to some of the people close to me, and they were just like, I just don't understand that. I just don't understand that. Well, the truth is, it's really not for another person to understand. I think the only thing you have to understand and show, if you truly love your friend, or family member, just show empathy, compassion, be there to listen. Don't discredit what it is that they're doing, but also don't discredit what it is. So let's talk about what the mother wound is. So they gave a description, okay? All right. So the mother wound, according to Steffi Wagner, who is the founder of the Mother Wound Project on IG, you can follow that at Mother Wound Project. She says the mother wound is all the pain we carry from our relationship or lack of relationship with our mothers. It is generational pain and intergenerational trauma inherited and passed down between grandmothers, mothers, and daughters. And, I can attest to that because my mother claims that her own mother was very toxic and they did not have a good relationship. And as a child, I actually used to witness, like they could be in the same room and not even look or speak at one another. You know what I mean? And just imagine what that does to you, as a child, watching that. It's very confusing and you don't really understand. And it's almost like, you don't know whose side to pick because, you got your grandmother who, my grandmother was like one of my warriors, okay? Like, she was about it for her grandchildren, and treated me like, like precious gold, like grandmothers treat their grandchildren, okay? And then, but then I had my mother who I lived with, who, I wanted her approval and her love and her acceptance. And, even though sometimes I didn't always get it, she was still my mom. And you want that, you know what I mean? Like, no matter how much a parent can push you away or say or do things, like as a kid, you just want them to somehow love you and show you that they love you and consistently show you that they love you. And, this is not to say that my mother never showed me love, because she absolutely did. My mom is, responsible for a lot of, who I am as a person. I think my strength, my courage, my determination, my unwillingness to put up with BS, that comes from my mother. My no-nonsense approach when it comes to dating and dealing with men, like, that comes from my mother. How I am, I'm meticulous about, my finances and getting things in order. And, part of that comes from my mother. How I carry myself, in public settings, and, how I talk, especially, how I think, my mom, having worked in corporate America for years and telling me some of the stories of what she had to deal with and the things she had to do and say, in order to make sure that she was respected and valued as a Black woman, I am the same way. I'm like, I don't take no ish. So, this is a lot of the best parts of me are because of, my mom. So signs of having the mother wound, according to the article, signs of having the mother wound could include and do include body shaming, like being ashamed of your own body, like especially if your mother, talked about your body in any kind of way, maybe called you fat or too skinny or anything like that. That could be one of the things. People pleasing, if you're always trying to please everybody around you because you were always trying to please your mother. Conflict avoidance. Some people retreat into themselves, become very introverted, and, avoid all sorts of conflict, even the type that's necessary, okay? Low self-esteem and confidence, wanting and needing approval from your mother. Like, even as an adult, you'll find that there are some people who, want and need approval from their mother, even at, this adult age. Seeking out conflict for no good reason. The other side of conflict avoidance is when you're constantly looking for a fight. You know what I mean? Like, you're constantly looking for someone to rah-rah with, or, get into it, or, tell off. Belief that you are unlovable or hard to love. I think if you hear something so many times over a prolonged period of time, you start to internalize it. Even if you say that you don't, actions speak louder than words. So, when you hear somebody say things like, oh, you're spoiled, you act like a princess, it'd be hard to be in a relationship with you, blah, 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 and things like that, that can, start messing with your psyche. And if you don't make sure that your mind is blocking that out, or you don't get the proper help, then, it will carry on into your, into your future relationships. Okay, so then the article goes on to talk about healing from the mother wound. And that's really important because, that's one of the things that, or really the main thing that my brand, the Hope Strategist, is centered around, is really helping people to heal and live out their purpose, find their purpose, live it, be their ultimate, authentic, glorious selves. But I do know that a lot of people need healing. And, I just got to say, during meditation this morning, Coach Stormy in the Girl Hold My Hand community said to us, and I was like, wow, this is confirmation. You cannot heal what you won't acknowledge. Okay? So here's the first step to healing is acknowledging it. Because for years, I did not acknowledge, hey, I have a very toxic relationship with my mother. My mother is toxic because she had a toxic relationship with her own mother and she never got help or healing from that. And unfortunately, my grandmother never did too. So, my grandmother is no longer here, but my mom is still here and she hasn't done anything to work on healing from her own mother wound. Okay. So acknowledgement first. Okay. Then remother yourself. Okay. One of the ways I remother myself is self-affirmations. I believe in speaking positivity and life and love and light into my life every day. And I do that in the morning. I do that throughout the day if I need to. Sometimes I'll do it at night before I go to bed. Self-care and self-love. One of my hashtags is self-love journey. Not because, I only want to be by myself, but because I have to love me first. Before I can expect anyone to love me the way I'm supposed to be loved, I got to make sure that I'm loving Shay, okay? So self-care is not just about, getting your hair and nails done. Self-care is also being kind to yourself, showing yourself grace, showing yourself compassion, taking time to be by yourself sometimes, saying no to anything and anyone that doesn't serve you. Okay, set boundaries around the relationship with your mother. You don't have to take the abuse. I've had people in my life and they'll be like, oh, you only have one mother. That's your mother. You have to respect her. You have to respect her. Yes, respect, but don't be a doormat. And that there's a huge difference. I feel like, if you are constantly the one that is attempting to have a relationship over the years, you've always been the one to apologize. You've always been the one to say, hey, we're family. I'm your daughter. You're my mother. Like at some point you have got to realize that is no longer your job. It is not your job to heal your mother. It is your job. Yes. Respect her, love her, but sometimes you got to do that from afar, and you've got to allow people to deal with their own ish. Okay? Because you've got to protect your energy. And if someone has a very negative, nasty, toxic energy, you don't have to be a part of that. I don't see anywhere in the Bible where God said, I want you to be treated like crap by your mother. No. Honor thy mother and thy father. Yes, always. Love. I love my parents, okay? I love my mother and father. But I love Shay more. I won't argue that they gave me life. I won't disagree that, the best parts of them came through me, but that doesn't mean that I have to live my life in turmoil and grief and sadness and constantly beating myself up. Okay. Seek therapy and counseling with a licensed professional. Hey, to get to this point, I had to do a lot of work. And I thank God for, my therapist. I thank God for, for my mentors. I did a healing work masterclass with Rebecca Lynn Pope and Carrie Lynn Pope a couple of years ago, and it was life-changing. Journal your thoughts. I've always been an avid journaler. I feel like sometimes when we don't have the words to say, it's a lot easier to write them down. Forgive yourself. That's important first, because I think, we can take on so much. Like, we become very guilty, thinking like, well, what is it that I did? And should I have been a better child? Should I have been a better daughter? Maybe I shouldn't have said this. Maybe I shouldn't have done that. Well, as a kid, I was this, I was that. Look, you were a kid. Kids do what kids do. And even if, you were an adult, like, forgive yourself. No one here can stand and judge anybody. So that brings me to the next one. Forgive your mother. That took a lot of work for me as well, because I had to, show compassion and empathy for her, because I'm like, you know what? She hasn't done the work. She hasn't done the healing. She's still hurting from her own mother wound. I wasn't born when she was a little girl, of course. So I don't know everything that she went through. I know only what she told me. I know, of course, some of the things that my grandmother said, but only she knows how she felt, what she dealt with, and what she's still dealing with today. And it's not easy. So I had to show compassion and empathy and really be like, you know what, my mom really has not gotten to that point in her life, and I don't know if she ever will, where she is willing to work on herself, acknowledge her pain, like do the shadow work that it takes to really have true ultimate healing, forgive her own mother. Like, you gotta really understand, some people just aren't ready. And I don't know if they'll ever be ready, and that's where prayer and faith comes in, right? So, I could talk about this all day. I'll probably do another, live in regards to this, definitely, because I think it's a topic that needs to be addressed more. I really feel like more people should talk about it, because it's more common than we think, but everyone tries to be like, hush, hush, like, ooh, no, don't talk about that. That's family business. No, it's people business. It truly is, because it's something that actually affects everything that we do. It affects our relationships. It affects, how we feel about ourselves. It can even affect our own relationship with our children. So, I just wanted to get on and reference that article, definitely go and take a look at it, and leave some feedback, comments. If you had a chance to read that article, tell me what you thought. When I send it to my girlfriends, some of them were just like, oh my gosh, these were the exact words like taken out of my mouth. This is exactly how I have felt. And this is exactly the type of relationship I've had with my own mother. And it just felt like, oh, thank you for, putting a name to it. Cause it's like, it's hard to describe, right? So I got to jump off for a Zoom call, but just wanted to come on here and say blessings and abundance to you all. Love, love, love your family and friends. Hold on tight to those in your life. Say hello to somebody you haven't spoken to in a while. Send a text, pick up the phone, whatever it is, however you communicate, but just reach out to those who mean something to you. Reach out often. Don't let another day pass by where, you say, dang, I wish I would have said something, and and then it's just too late. Okay. Have a great day, everyone. Don't forget to follow me on YouTube at The Hope Strategist. I will include that link for the article on YouTube. All right, bye.